Hey everyone, welcome back to Lost Creek. My name is Scott, and today we are going to continue working on our 1989 Jeep YJ project. Pretty quick episode today. We're going to be installing rear shocks, and we are going to be installing the rear track bar, but we have to do some fabrication first in order to make that work. Stay tuned. The first thing I'm going to do, cleaned off a little bit of the bench here, is install the shocks that I've got, okay? And these are not super duper expensive shocks. I bought these from Quadratec. Buy a lot of good Jeep parts from Quadratec. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but you know, they got great prices and their shipping is super fast, so I use them for a lot of stuff. So I got these Hydro 7.0 shocks. Let's see how I like them. I don't really... The reviews seem good on them. I don't really think I've got many complaints. So I'll use these. I put them on the front of the Jeep already. You can see here. So I'm going to use the same ones, obviously, for the back. I bought the set. So I'm going to go ahead and put these together. I've already inserted these, like Delrin or nylon bushings, and then the metal sleeve on the inside. So one thing that they don't tell you when you get these shocks from Quadratec is that on the top and on the bottom, you've got these nylon little bushings, like I told you before, and inside those nylon bushings is this metal sleeve, which you also have to press in. Now, the drag about it is that for this upper mount, which is fixed to the vehicle, you have to not use the metal sleeve, right? So the fun part about this is that, because right now I can't, this is as far as it goes on. It won't go on any farther. So I have to pull that metal sleeve off. It's just ridiculous that I installed it in the first place. But quite truthfully, I've actually made this mistake before, right? On another YJ I had, I made the mistake and had to do this exact same thing. So just to let you know, what did I say last time? Sometimes you gotta do things twice. Well, here I go, doing things twice. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out that metal sleeve on the inside, only on the top, right? On the bottom, you gotta have it, okay? Because you're sliding a bolt through there. So only on the top am I gonna remove that metal sleeve. As you'll see with everything that I'm doing on this Jeep, gotta do a little dab of anti-seize on those threads, right? Make it easier to swap those shocks out someday. Up on the keeper washer here, and then the nut, right? Big old 3/4 inch nut. There we go. And then I'm just going to sock that down. All right, shocks are in. Not overly complex. A little bit different if the vehicle's got a body on it and you're crawling around on the ground, but quite truthfully, it was pretty easy for me. So these are in. They're tightened down nice and tight. I definitely put lock washers on them and anti-seize on the bolts. So these are ready to go. On to the next. Bit of a problem here. So I've got this track bar for the rear axle. This actually came from the donor Jeep. The one that was on the Jeep originally was really, really rusted, but this one was in much better condition. The bushings and whatnot were in really good condition. So I'm going to use this one. I already cleaned it up and painted it. But we have a problem, right? So originally, when the original track bar was installed, see here, this is a lift. This is an extension, right? This is where it bolts to stock. And then this is an extension because these are lift springs on this YJ. Look how hogged out, hogged out, destroyed these holes are, okay? This is like the size of like a 7/16 bolt, or should be the size of a 7/16 bolt. The problem is that the guy that owned the Jeep before me, didn't know it was loose. So essentially, every time that axle came up and down, it would bang against this because the bolt was loose, right? So all it did was just destroy that. So I've got an idea about how I'm going to fix this. So let's get ready and install this. First thing I'm going to do is install the upper mount. Now this upper mount's in great condition. The holes are fine. Everything's fine. So we're going to install this part first. I'm going to use grade 8 hardware. Do I need to use grade 8 hardware? Absolutely not. I don't think that this application truly requires that. But that's what I found that fit. The price was right, so I bought them. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is set this track bar, this rear track bar, in place right here. Okay. Well, that ain't right. There we go. Okay. So let's kind of set this in place for now. This bolt, this hole right here does not have any issues. So we're going to mount this up solid. Okay. There's a little kind of a lock bolt, if you will, keeping it from moving in this direction here. I actually need a little bit more room. So I'm going to take that out, and I've got the bolt just set in place for now because I'm trying to get this aligned at the top and bottom of the track bar. So I'm going to remove this little 1/2-inch bolt here. Give me a little extra wiggle. I don't need much. This is real rusty and horrible, even though I cleaned it up. The threads are really rusty. I'm gonna have to replace this bolt, I think, once I, there we go. Once I get it out of there. Goodness. So you can get a better idea of what I'm dealing with here. So yeah, it's rusty. I'll clean that up and I'll paint this whole bracket before putting it back on. But I mean, it's a pretty decent bracket. Not real complex. You can see where I'm going to weld that washer to and give me a nice clean hole there. I'm actually going to, again, look and see if I got a little bit thicker of a washer. Give me an opportunity to beef this up just a touch. All right, everybody's got to have one of these, a big old tub of miscellaneous washers. Okay, I think I got a whole better idea. So this is nice, thick steel washer, but watch this. Fits right inside that hole. So what I'm thinking of is putting it in there like that, right? Welding that in, and then welding in this piece over here where it's just horribly trashed, right? And then I'll cut it to clean it up a little bit. So maybe I'll even cut it ahead of time. So I'll cut this down to fit this perfectly and keep it nice, thick steel, right? I really want this track bar walking around on me. I want it to be nice and strong. So this is it. I think this is the solution I'm looking for. Okay, I cut 2 little washers. They're a little hot, so nice thick pieces of that pipe so that it'll fit right into there. So I'm going to bevel the edges of these just like I beveled the edges this so that I can actually get a deeper penetration weld on that. Because I'm only going to weld at the top side. I'm not going to try to weld in here. That would just be a slight nightmare. So I'm going to do that instead. All right, I'll talk kind of loud because the compressor's running, but this is the finished product. I mean, it came out pretty darn nice. It's not the prettiest thing I ever saw, but I ground it down, ran a flat file across it a little bit to just kind of make it a little bit cleaner. You can see there where I got some little cuts where I was using an actual cutoff wheel to smooth down the welds a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is going to work out just fine. I'll flip it over and show you the inside and see what we think of that. So there's that. So you can kind of see, this is kind of a nice little viewpoint where you can see the before and then the after. I think I might throw a couple more little welds right in there to make it a little bit cleaner and then run my file across it to make sure it's flat. But I think this is going to work out real well. Okay, there it is, cleaned up, welded, the insides are good. I'm just going to give it a quick coat of paint. All right, all the parts are painted and dried. I let them sit overnight, and now I'm going to go ahead and reassemble. Okay, so I got the track bar in, the rear track bar. It was a little bit of an endeavor. That riser, the makes up for the difference of having a lift. It fit great after we made the alterations to it, but it wasn't working with me. I had to finagle it a little bit to get it in place. So I put in the grade 8 bolt on the bottom with the lock washer, etc., and that fit real well. And then I had to go pilfer through my box of Jeep bolts to find one to fit the top, because it had actually been reinforced and the bolts that I bought weren't long enough. So I found some lock washers. I put some anti-seize on there. I'm going to show it to you here in a second, but it's on and it's solid. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that went. It took a lot longer than it should have, but Jeep. So anyway, I'll show that to you here in a sec. Okay, there's the bottom mount with the riser, spacer, whatever you want to call it, that goes and makes up for the difference of the lift, okay? So then the track bar looks great, and then I had to use, again, an older bolt, but still solid as can be. Put some anti-seize on there, lock washer, etc. So that's all in. It looks good. Let me back up and give you a bird's eye of that. So track bar's in. I put it in the right way. I looked at the book. At least that's what the book said. So everything's in on that. We'll move on to the next thing. Thanks for joining us on Lost Creek today. I hope that was even a little bit informative. The track bar came out great. The shocks were really easy since the tub wasn't on the actual vehicle itself. So glad to not be crawling around on the ground, on the cold ground, in order to do that. So glad it's all done. Hopefully you got some information out of this. Stay tuned for more great content.